So episode 4 to 7, we get one storyline running through, and that's Margaret. She is absolutely humiliated, is falling apart, just a mess, and that's what makes her meeting Tony seem all the more magical. And he's just this knight in shining armor, so charming. Their flirtation, talking about photography, and then actually going into his darkroom. It's so sexually charged. But as the viewer, it's also very tense, because if you don't know the historical context, you don't know whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. And there's always that question, and you just pray that he's a good guy, because you just say Margaret cannot go through any more pain, like she's had enough. And her relationship with Tony, we get some fun moments with Elizabeth when Elizabeth opens the paper and sees a scandalous photo. Just the look on her face. Elizabeth's so proper, some would even say prudish, just her look of horror, and Phillips kind of pokes fun at her about it. But then you also get some really painful scenes between the sisters. In episode 7, Elizabeth knows she's going down a bad road, knows that it's a disastrous marriage, but she just can't bring herself to thwart her sister's love like she did last season. So she lets her do what she knows ultimately. She knows her sister's doing a mistake, but she just can't bring herself to say the things that would avert this crisis. She kind of hints at it, but that hints aren't enough, and Elizabeth just can't bring herself to say what she'd need to say. And then episode 5, Elizabeth gives this horrible speech that was so bad I had to look it up and see, did this actually happen in history? That she talks about the commoners and their dull, unimportant work being very important for the functioning of society. And it makes you wonder, was Elizabeth not looking and reading what she was saying, or is she just that out of touch that she had no idea that it was going to be received so badly? In this episode, we get a very interesting portrayal of the media, who throughout the show is often cast as the villain, that they seem to be sensationalizing everything, like when Mike cheats on his wife and they get divorced, and then all the headlines are Duke's friend gets divorced. Like, they seem to be always treating the monarchy unfairly. But in this episode, you see it's just normal people deciding on what their stance on issues are going to be while eating Beatrice's toffee. And then Lord Altricham, you get these fascinating scenes with him in the televised interview, and then him having a sit down with Elizabeth, which may or may not actually have happened. But it was just so charged and so interesting to see this debate that took place between the monarchy and the more enlightened liberals who wanted to see modernization. And when he gets punched for, some say, insulting the Queen, it's a very interesting cultural thing, because in America or even in Canada, I couldn't really think of any figure who, if you insulted them in such a minor way that he does, someone would get so upset about that, they would actually seek that person out and attack them. You can attack the president, you can attack celebrities, you can attack almost everyone. It's interesting that there's that difference in the UK where there are still certain people who people take so seriously, not respecting the dignity of. And then at the end, the mom gives this woe is the monarchy speech. And it's interesting, you think about Elizabeth being this long reigning monarch, but really reigning over a period of decline for the monarchy where there's nothing she can really do about it. It's just the way of the world. And episode 6, I thought was quite good as well. At first, it's unclear why we're spending so much time with Billy Graham, who's this famous American preacher, and then also this relative who Elizabeth is struggling over forgiving. But then it all ties together, and he has this conversation with Elizabeth about the Christian principle of forgiveness, and it just really tied the episode well together. God, I felt for Elizabeth. So much of the show seems to be her just receiving horrible news from someone when she's hearing about how this person she loves did all these horrible things, and just you really feel it on her face. Just great performance by the actress. And lastly, Elizabeth's desk button that she uses to dismiss people, that's never going to get old.